2. All right, I will check on missing work before I sign out today. All right, so yeah, it's going to be my objective to get everybody caught up. If they do sync on Friday afternoons, the grades to Infinite Campus, so I will, before I log off today, I will make sure. So as long as it's in before 3 o'clock, it will get seen. The end of my day is 3 o'clock. All righty. Give another minute. Again, look at your Canvas section on natural disturbances. Disruptions to the ecosystem. All right, just let me check the attendance real quick and then I will get with you short. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do also is show a brief video and then I'm going to, all right, there we go. Then we're going to do the AP classroom. All right, so I like my video better, but I still have assigned those videos in the AP classroom as well. All right, so let me do attendance and then we'll get started. All those who are usually on time are here already. And I appreciate y'all for making your best effort to be on time. It does help to get started on time when everybody's here. Then I don't have to repeat myself. Okay, that's true. Okay, done and done. Let me do this real quick. All right, excuse my sharing. Okay. All right, Isadora, we are in Canvas. We are in natural disruptions to our ecosystem. All right. So this is like talking about Mother Nature, so things that we can't help that are going to happen that are out of our control. So those are natural disturbances, and natural disturbances alter We haven't talked about succession, but we'll talk about succession later on. But there's a natural way that um, our ecosystem develops from dirt and rock, and then it starts with small vascular plants that have short roots because they don't run very deep, and then they eventually break up the soil enough that larger plants can grow, and then eventually it progresses until we can have tall trees. And then we have things like natural disasters that disrupt the pattern of the way the ecosystem is going to develop. Okay, so we have, and that's going to change all of these things down here in um, in the bolded letters. So it's going to cause loss of biomass. If we have a massive fire, biomass are all the trees and all the animals and all the things that live in that particular area. So if you have a fire, like they have in the picture there, all of your vegetation is gone. So you've lost biomass. Because the trees are gone, the productivity of oxygen for our atmosphere is gone because the trees provide us with the oxygen, and certain vegetation provides us with food for us and other organisms with food. So that has also been destroyed. And the diversity of organisms that live there are either going to die or they're going to move away because they can't live there anymore. Okay, so these disruptions alter not only the physical terrain, but also the biological terrain. All right, so I'm going to give you a chance to read that in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and share this video with you. All right. All right, so this is designed to go along with the course. So the 2.5 correlates with the unit that you're on, as well as I liked this video. I've signed the videos in the AP classroom, but I like this one better. So want you to see this first, and then I'll let you do the AP classroom videos and questions.
Covering topic 2.5, which is natural disruptions to ecosystems. Our objective for the day is to be able to explain how natural disruptions, both short-term and long-term, impact ecosystems and habitats, and then we'll practice the skill of describing trends and data at the end of today's video. So a natural disturbance is just a natural event that disrupts the structure and or the function of an ecosystem. So it's going to interrupt energy and matter cycling through the ecosystem. It may displace organisms. It may totally reshape or even destroy the ecosystem.
Okay, now I will say this video is also uploaded to the playlist. The vocabulary should also be on your Canvas, part of your Canvas vocabulary, but you can take notes. It wouldn't hurt to take notes.
Or the habitat. So some examples would be tornadoes, hurricanes, fires, asteroid impacts. So like the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, that would be an example of a natural disturbance. And it's important to point out that natural disturbances can be even greater than human disturbances. So we disturb ecosystems by clear cutting, by farming, but natural disturbances can be even greater than some of these disturbances we cause. So like I mentioned earlier, the asteroid that struck Earth about 65 million years ago and wiped out the dinosaurs along with several other species. This is an example of a natural disturbance that is very destructive and far more impactful than many human disturbances. So another important thing we need to know is that natural disturbances can appear on 3 different time scales. So they can be periodic, episodic, or random. So a periodic event is one that occurs with some regular frequency. It's somewhat predictable, and a great example is the wet and the rainy seasons that are followed then by dry seasons. So in an ecosystem such as the savanna in Africa, these happen pretty regularly, and so we would call them periodic. Next, we have episodic events. Episodic events are ones that occur somewhat frequently, but not with a really regular interval. We can't necessarily predict exactly when they're going to happen. There may be times of the year where they're more likely. So hurricanes are a great example, droughts and fires. We expect more fires to happen in California during the summer than in the winter. And so we have some idea of when they might occur, the conditions that would contribute to them, but we can't predict them with absolute certainty. Then finally, we have random events, and they're just like what they sound. We understand why they happen, but we don't necessarily know when they happen. There aren't times of the year where they're more or less likely per se. And so things like earthquakes or an asteroid striking Earth would be great examples of random events.
This is one of those that stops for commercials.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check your school's.
Now we'll talk about natural climate change. So over long periods of time, Earth's climate has varied quite a bit for numerous reasons that are natural or non-human reasons. So one example is that there are slight changes in Earth's orbit and its tilt as it goes around the sun. And that's going to cause mini periods of ice ages and mini periods that are warmer. And these occur with somewhat regular frequency. So we can take a look at these images here. And what we can see is as the Earth is orbiting the sun, there's going to be some slight changes. So every 100,000 to 400,000 years, we'll see this shift in eccentricity where the Earth will move slightly closer to the sun in its orbit or slightly further away. There's also some variation in the Earth's tilt, which would tilt us slightly closer or slightly further away from the sun, depending on what hemisphere we're in. And so these changes result in somewhat regular shifts in temperature on Earth. So if we look now at temperature over the past 800 years, in the red, we'll see that temperature rises and falls. We have periods where it's cooler, where there are small ice ages. We have periods where it's warmer. And also, there's variation in carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere that are naturally occurring. So these could be due to the oceans warming, which then gives off carbon dioxide. It could be due to periods of increased plant growth, which would take in some carbon dioxide. And so there are several natural patterns that occur over time that result in climate change. We will talk a lot in this course about human-driven climate change, which is a very big concern. I don't want to undermine the importance of human-caused climate change, but we do have to understand that there are natural factors that also contribute to climate change over time. For some perspective, we can look at these carbon dioxide levels over the past 800,000 years, and we can see that although they have varied naturally, what we are seeing currently far exceeds any level of natural carbon dioxide change that we have seen in human history. And so this is why scientists are rightfully concerned about this. So again, we have to understand why there are natural changes in climate, but I do not say that at all to undermine the importance of human-driven climate change currently.
All right, I'm going to pause this for a minute just to say that graphs like this appear on exams. We are coming up on end of term exams, so you might see one like this. But the question is, when you're reading this, is to be able to explain the trend. So you have to be able to look and understand what is happening and explain why this sharp spike is happening. Okay, so notice that the blue is in carbon dioxide, and the red is temperature. And they have them on the same graph. So you're looking at two sides of the graph, but you have to be able to translate a graph such as this. Okay.
That will be our last unit of the year. It's one of our most important, and so that will be something we focus on a lot in this course. Another natural change that has happened on Earth over the years is sea level rise. So sea level has varied significantly over geologic time, and that happens primarily due to Earth's changing in temperature over time. So if we look at this graph here, what we'll see is that periods of increased carbon dioxide will lead to warmer periods, and warmer periods lead to melting of polar ice caps. So when polar ice caps melt due to the warmer temperature, that water flows into the ocean. And so we can see these peaks of sea level rise are coinciding with carbon dioxide peaks that are warming the atmosphere and therefore the ocean. And there's a little bit of a positive feedback loop because when the ocean warms, it can't hold as much carbon dioxide, so it gives off more to the atmosphere, which warms it a little bit more. And so we get these periods again where carbon dioxide peaks, warms the atmosphere and therefore the ocean, and the ocean then leads to melting of polar ice caps as well as the warmer atmosphere. And there's something called thermal expansion. So the ocean level actually rises a little bit when it's warmer due to the water molecules actually spreading out. So these two factors contribute to sea level rise that occurs naturally over time. Now we'll talk about the implications for habitats with environmental change. So these major environmental disturbances are going to cause widespread habitat destruction or alteration, sometimes even habitat loss. A great example that we should be really comfortable explaining in this course is sea level rise. So as sea level rise happens, we actually lose coastal estuaries as they go underwater. They no longer function as these sort of brackish, part salt, part freshwater areas that have some exposed land right next to water. They get completely flooded, and that changes the way these habitats function. It removes this habitat for species that require the land, and it changes the depth of water, which changes some of the characteristics of the plant community. So let's look at some diagrams to help us understand. If we take a look at this diagram here, what we'll see is that now we have a sea level here that then allows for the existence of these salt marshes and these mangroves, a really important estuary habitat. Remember that a lot of shellfish are going to breed here. A lot of birds are going to find their homes here. But as sea level rises, we lose the amount of this estuary habitat because it can't exist in these deeper waters. So it has to shift into the shore, and we actually lose some of that habitat. So many of these species would have to migrate, or they would die as a result of this change. And we can see another example of what this looks like when we look at the change in depth. So here we have sea level rise, and we can see that these aquatic plants that used to be close enough to the surface to get enough sunlight are now receiving decreased amounts of sunlight due to how far they are underwater. And certain species cannot even survive these conditions where there's so much water over them that they're not receiving adequate sunlight. And so we have a change in this community here. These species that used to thrive in shallow waters can no longer thrive in shallow waters. These mangroves and this edge forest ecosystem are going to become flooded. And so the organisms that relied on those terrestrial aspects of that ecosystem can no longer rely on that. So really important to understand that sea level rise changes estuary habitats by increasing the depth of the water and the saltiness or the salinity of the water. And then it's going to actually flood inland habitats right along the coast, which completely removes those habitats for species that need the land.
Explaining complex topics can be challenging.
Another
Highlight the
commercial.
text you want to simplify and let Grammarly rewrite it.
And finally, we'll talk about migration. So natural disturbances to environments can cause species to migrate. And sometimes these can be in predictable and repetitive patterns, such as wildebeest migrating to follow the rainy season across the Serengeti Plains here. So they're essentially going to follow rainfall patterns so that they can get access to the water that rain brings and the plant growth for their food source. But it may be less predictable and less regular. So another example is ocean species migrating further north as the ocean warms and opens up new ranges that used to be too cold for those species, or cold tolerant ocean species that have to migrate even further north as equatorial waters and lower latitude waters closer to the equator become too warm for them. And then finally, we have bird migration patterns, which have had to shift earlier in the year to accommodate the changes in insect hatching that have occurred due to climate change. Let's look at this graph here to help us understand. So previously, around 1980 or so, we can see that the caterpillar hatching date coincided perfectly with the peak food demand needs for the bird hatchlings. So we have the parents laying their eggs on a date that results in the hatching happening slightly before the caterpillar hatching, again, so that there is the peak demand for food for their hatchlings coinciding with the peak caterpillar hatching. However, as we look at today, due to climate change, there's now a mismatch in this timing. So caterpillar hatching has shifted forward due to it becoming warmer earlier in the spring. So the previous date of laying and date of hatching for birds now coincides with a peak hatchling food demand occurring at the tail end of caterpillar hatching. That's a problem. So what that means is that birds have had to shift their migratory patterns earlier in the year so that their breeding, their egg laying, and their hatching can also occur earlier in the year to be back in sync with caterpillar hatching. So again, And another example of how environmental change, in this case climate change, alters migration habits of organisms. Our practice FRQ for topic 2.5 today will involve the skill of describing trends or patterns in data. So we have a map here of the US, and we have the change in first leaf date for the honeysuckle plant. So what we can see is in dark orange, this is going to be 8 days earlier than previously. And in dark blue, this is going to be 8 days later than previously. So what I want you to do is look at this map and describe the relationship between latitude or distance from the equator and the change in first leaf date that's depicted in this graph. Then I want you to explain why you think this relationship exists.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. Don't forget to like this video if it was helpful. Subscribe for future APES video updates, and check out other notes over here to the
All right. I'm going to reproduce that question and put it in the assignment folder, but not for today. What I want you to do with the rest of the time today is to go to your AP classroom, and you've been assigned 2.5. This is 2.5, topic 2.5 in the AP classroom. So there are 2 short videos there, so you just need to acknowledge that you've watched them. And then there are 3 questions for you to work on. Let me get my oh. And I always have to sign in when I see you all because it doesn't hold it. If you leave it idle, it logs back out. So I have to sign in when you all are here. All right, so you've been assigned to watch 2.5, 2 videos, and then there are 3 MCQ questions for you to answer. And that being done, you're good for today. So 2.5 natural disruptions, you have been assigned to do both. So it does record for me that you've watched the video, and then it records your score for the topic questions. And again, if while you're in here, you haven't done any of the other ones that have been assigned, this would be a good time to catch up on that. Any questions? Any questions? is this doing that? I don't know why when I type in the box it goes horizontal. I mean vertical instead of horizontal. I have no idea why it does that. Uh,
Your child needs these three key factors to get into an Ivy League or top 20.
okay. If you finished that early, I put the question from the video in the assignment, so it should be on your home page now. Again, the video is in your playlist, and it is the last question on the video. But I've reproduced the picture and the question into the assignment folder. Make sure you watch both videos before answering the questions in the AP classroom. You should have, which questions are you referring to, Isidore? There should be 3 topic questions assigned to the reading. Yes. If you're in the AP classroom, there are 3 topic questions that are assigned. And yes, it should be 2.5 natural disruption, this destruction. And then in Canvas, folks, I have added the question that was at the end of the video that I showed. So I have a picture of the map that he had and the same question that he was asking. I put that in Canvas. So do that when you finish AP Classroom. That's not due until next class. So finish AP Classroom first. And again, the link for the video is in the assignment, as well as the video is in the playlist for class today. All right, good job, Van. For the video? Is it, or I'm not understanding which sites? You might not be able to rewatch the video because I'm still in YouTube. Someone else pointed out that while the class is taping YouTube, you can't go back and watch the video right now. I thought giving you the link for that. Hold on a second. Let me check because it should be okay. Give me 1 second. But I ran into that problem with another class where they could not watch the video on the playlist because we were still in class. So give me 1 second to finish this grade. It might be that I can clear it. Okay, that's not the. Oh, wrong one.
Drop everything and get some magic of your own during the Xfinity Black Friday sale. Make your choice of
Okay. All right, the link works. It's just that you might not be able to watch it while you're in class right now. And it is watchable by Muskogee County, so it shouldn't be blocked in that regard. I believe it's just blocked because you can't watch it right now. But you should be able to answer. I mean, I just put the video up there just so that for reference sake, but based on what you've read in the AP classroom, you ought to be able to translate this graph as well. Yes, just the two questions. So 2 questions in relation to the graph. Yes. And give a detailed answer. This is a 10-point question. So if it says describe, describe. It says explain, explain. I don't rush through the answer. Okay. And that little piece at the bottom is when I tried to copy and paste the link, it just separated, but both little pieces should take you to the video either way, but ignore one of the little piece at the bottom. It's the same video. It should have been one copy and paste, and when I went back to edit it, it won't let me, it doesn't even show that piece in my edit version. But you only need one, the link at the top, if you're watching the video. And Deborah, I am taking care of that question of yours right now. Right, but Deborah, you still have 2.1 biodiversity in the AP classroom to do as well. So while you're in the AP classroom, take a look at that one, 2.1. So that's Deborah, Ayana, and Kamari. All of you need to look at your 2.1 assignment in AP Classroom. Let me know if you've done it so that I go back and check on it. Hmm. Why would it do that? It just kicked me out. Huh. Um, Kamari, I think I found, yeah, I'm looking at another way to look at your questions as well. I think I can do this. All right, I got you. Okay, folks, time is up. So if you have no questions for me, you all have a great weekend. I'm gonna be here for a little while because I got to make sure these scores are transferred. But if you're good to go, have a